Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from Otherwise-Story 6821. I don't want my younger brother and his wife living with us if they have a baby. AITA. I, 27F, and my husband, 28M, recently bought our first home and are trying to start a family. I have also lost a pregnancy about 5 months ago. My youngest brother, BB, 23M, and his wife, A, 23F, have come across hard times. They have asked if they could rent our basement bedroom from us once their lease is up while they get on their feet. This would mean sharing common living areas and a kitchen. I am okay with that. However, my other brother, OB, 25M, and his girlfriend have recently announced they are expecting. This has somehow put BB and his wife in a race to have the next baby. Before me, my husband, and BB and A continue to bring up the fact that they are trying to have a child at every dinner or family gathering since OB's announcement. I am incredibly frustrated with them as they are asking for a cheap place to stay because they have no money, but also trying to bring a child into this world unprepared. I have expressed my opposition to them having a child before they have their financial situation in a better place, and have also told them, if they get pregnant, I do not want them living in my house. At Easter dinner, I told A again, after she brought it up, that they are making a bad decision and that I wasn't going to financially support them in my home if she got pregnant. This made her cry. Now my family is telling me I have no business telling them how to live their lives, and I should shut up and support them or get out of their lives. I also am having big feelings because I want the baby in my home to be my own. AITA for this? Am I horrible for feeling this way? What should I do? Edit. I see some confusion in the comments. I don't care who has a baby first. I'm excited for my brother, who is expecting. I am, however, not okay with baby brother using my home, which I bought for me to have babies in, to have their baby in. If they can't afford their housing, they cannot afford a child. Also, my parents are in separate states from us and are not in a financial position to help. And my family says I've always been a bossy bitch. I guess that may be true. But I said what I said, and that's what I said. Update 4/2/23. There is lots to unpack. I sat and spoke with my husband today. He told me that after I went outside at Sunday dinner to get away from them, he and A had talked. He told her that I was having a hard time deciding if I wanted them in our house. I'm not sure what else was said as I wasn't there. This meant we were bullying them, and that's why BB came outside to tell me to apologize to A, and the argument started on Sunday, which ended up involving the whole gaggle of goons. My husband also expressed the problems we've had with them disrespecting our tools and home when they come over to hang out. They built and painted some dressers for their apartment in my garage and made a huge mess. Paint all over. Our tools are left outside in the yard. The paint sprayer was ruined because they put it in the fridge instead of cleaning it. Some yard tools they played with while I was trimming trees and roses were still in the bushes out back. I usually communicate to my brother through text because they work night shifts. So, my husband and I wrote this up, and I sent it to BB. I love you both dearly. I've spoken to my friend, and she helped me understand that I was not approaching the situation the way I thought I was. I know it's not my business when you have kids or what your finances are or if it's a good idea or not. It's only my business if you stay at our house or not. I am your sister, not your mother. I respect y'all's decision to have a baby as it's your choice. However, considering the circumstances, I don't feel that's a wise choice to let you move in anymore. Our agreement was for you and A to live here until you could get on your feet, but with the discussion of you actively trying to bring a child into the world, it would be best to find housing for yourselves so you have the room if you're to be expecting at any time in the future. It wouldn't be fair to any of us to be crowded in my home with both families actively trying for a child. Husband. And I want to grow our own family. We need our own space and are concerned that if you have a child, you will never be able to afford your place. I am also concerned that you can't control Demon Dog. She has been aggressive towards my small dog and stresses my big dog out. This is their home. My dogs. They are my priority. We cannot and will not sacrifice our family's future to support you. I'm sorry I can't help you this way. I know, my husband, had mentioned to you my apprehension about you moving in. I'm sorry it took the argument on Sunday to help me come to a decision. I don't want any feelings of resentment. I will continue to help you find a cheaper car and will be a supportive big sister and help you however else I can. As of this update, I have not heard back. I'll update again when I have news. Small update evening of 4/23. My dad called me. I think BB called him but I couldn't confirm. He didn't have the full story. He didn't know my brother had asked to live in my home. He agrees they should not be living with me. But he held his ground on saying what they do with their life is not my business. And I agree. Still no response from BB or A. Update kinda? 4/25. BB called me today. We gave them some furniture when they moved into their apartment about 10 months ago. He asked if we wanted it back or if he could sell it. I told him it was his to do with as he wished. I asked if he wanted to talk about the text. As BB was answering, I heard A in the background go "Nuh-uh," and cut BB off from talking and said, "Maybe later." Then I said "Okay, love you," and he said "love you" and hung up. Almost immediately after that call, my dad called again. He asked me if BB had spoken to me at all. I told him about the odd way I cut him off from actually talking to me. My dad said, "It's totally up to them to fix their shit, and frankly she's way too easily offended and it's her problem." He also apologized for getting so upset on Sunday. He is sick of their baby drama too. I am okay with where this has come to. I appreciate all of your advice and the comments. I was starting to feel like the big sister that I get called a lot. I see now that I wasn't handling things in a way that made sense to my family. And they thought I was meddling in my brother's life without having the whole story. My husband says I'm a kind person, but not gentle. And that's why I rub people the wrong way. I will continue to protect our peace, as you have advised. If anything changes, you'll be the first to know. Zoxo, the bossy sister. OP is not an AH. She has every right to set boundaries about who lives in her own home, especially while she and her husband are trying to start a family and heal from a pregnancy loss. Her brother and sister-in-law's choices are theirs, but OP is entitled to protect her peace and home. So, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 and OP's brother and sister-in-law 2.5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from no_mix1473. AITA for kicking my fiancé's sister out of my wedding? I, 32F, have never had a good relationship with my mother. She was very emotionally and verbally abusive to me when I was a kid. She's a very mean person, and when I left for college at 18, I went into no contact with her. It was best for me to distance myself from her, and it worked for me. When I met my fiancé John, 5 years ago, he knew all about my relationship with my mom and that I had no contact with her. He always respected my boundaries and never pushed for me to have a relationship with her, even when I was pregnant with our daughter, too. When I got engaged, I made his sister Stacy my maid of honor because we have a very close relationship. Or I thought. Last Sunday, I was going over the guest list with her and coming up with the seating chart for the reception. I never said anything about where my mother would be sitting because she wasn't invited, and I think that caught her off guard because she asked where my mother would be sitting. I told her that my mother wasn't invited because we don't talk, and I really don't want her at the wedding. She got quiet but didn't argue with me, and we moved on from there. A few days passed, and I got a call from a number I didn't know. I didn't answer and hung up, but the number called again, so I answered. My heart dropped when I heard my mother's voice. She was crying on the phone, asking me why she knew that I was getting married, and I was honest with her. I told her that she didn't need to know because of how she treated me throughout my childhood. I had to go to therapy to undo the damage she did to me, and I'm still not completely healed from it. I chose to go no contact with her, and I would like to keep it that way. She told me that it was unfair that I was holding what she did years ago against her, and she hopes that we could talk when she comes down for the wedding. I told her that wasn't necessary because she wasn't invited. She started crying, asking me why I sent her an invitation to the wedding if I didn't want her there. I told her that I didn't, so I don't know how she got one, but it wasn't from me. She said nothing else and hung up the phone. When John got home with Stacy, I asked him why he sent an invitation to my mother when I told him that I didn't want her there. He was confused and said that he didn't, but I told him that someone did because she has one. That's when Stacy steps in and tells me that she was the one who invited me because she thought that if I saw her at my wedding, I would realize how important it was to have my mother there for me. Now Stacy knows what I have been through with my mom and why I didn't want her at my wedding. She knows that my relationship with her is not good, and her going behind my back to invite someone to my wedding that I don't get along with felt like a huge act of betrayal. I snapped at her and kicked her out of the wedding party because I refused to have someone there who didn't respect my boundaries and invited people I didn't like without my permission. She immediately started crying to John, telling him that I couldn't do this and to stop me from kicking her out of the wedding. He was quick to take my side and completely banned her from the wedding. She was fuming mad and left without saying a word. I got calls all Thursday and Friday from John's family telling me that I was the asshole for making John ban his sister from the wedding. His mom told me that what she did wasn't even that big of a deal, and I needed to stop acting like a petty baby over something that happened to me years ago. I told her if she felt that way, she didn't have to come to the wedding either, before hanging up on her. This whole thing has divided the family, and it's making me feel guilty, but John has reassured me that I did nothing wrong and had nothing to feel guilty about. I want to believe him, but I can't help but feel like I might have overrated a bit. So, am I the AH here? OP is not an AH. She communicated her boundaries regarding her abusive mother, and Stacy's decision to secretly invite her was a major betrayal of trust. OP was right to remove Stacy from the wedding to protect her emotional well-being on such an important day. As for scores, I would rate OP's mother 2.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the last story from Gay Post Malone. AITA for dropping my elderly parents off at a hotel and blocking their numbers? I, 25M, just picked up my parents, 74M and 69F, from the airport after 4-ish days' notice of their arrival. I got a call Saturday, 04/19/25, from my mom telling me that she and my dad bought a plane ticket to come see me. For context, my parents live in SoCal, and I live in Kansas. I think for any other family, this would be news to be celebrated. Who wouldn't want to see their parents by surprise after 4 years apart? Me. I wouldn't. My parents were so horrifically abusive to me growing up that I don't think I'd be able to paint a satisfying picture of the severity if I had the rest of my life to do it. I was physically, psychologically, and emotionally abused by them for most of my childhood until I was kicked out at 17 because they suspected I was gay. We lived in broken-down RVs with no running water or electricity, and cars most of my childhood. And on top of that, they justified all of the mistreatment by using the Bible against me for everything. I was not allowed to make mistakes. I was not allowed to grow and to challenge and to be a kid. They robbed me of my innocence and my childhood, and they have caused so much irrevocable damage. Now, after years of being alone, my father has developed dementia, and my mother has become his caretaker. It made sense to me for this to become the natural progression of things because my mom has always been his caretaker, and both of them are far too stubborn to ever admit that they need help beyond their capacity. I've said for years that my mom needs to figure out a way to get him into hospice or something before he gets worse and forgets how to eat or whatever, and especially before he gets abusive. That's never happened. A few months ago, my father's geriatric doctor reached out to me sharing that she was trying to gauge my mom's capacity for being able to help my dad. She was mostly vague with her questions due to HIPAA laws, but I just shared with her my experiences with him over the phone, that I thought he needed to be in hospice, etc. I never got a follow-up, and my parents remain in their apartment with my mom as my dad's caretaker. I apologize if I seem all over the place or if this seems incoherent. I'm just truly at a loss for words, and I'm frantic right now. Today, my parents arrived in Kansas without a ride lined up, without a hotel or living arrangements booked, without a plan. Just to come see me. They barely have the money to get by. I don't know how they had the money to fly out here. When my mom called, I spent an hour trying to explain to her why it was such a horrible idea. My dad could lose his shit in the airport, he could get lost from my mom, they could miss a connecting flight, they could have a health issue on the plane. So many things could go wrong on the way here. On top of that, my dad is a dark-skinned Latino man, and right now, things are a little dangerous for people who look like him. I spoke to family and friends whom I trust, and they all thought that this was an insane situation, and they all urged me to just let them figure it out on their own. They're not my responsibility. But I picked them up from the airport. Despite all the abuse, despite the trauma, despite them completely not earning any sort of relationship with me, I picked them up and took them to a hotel nearby with a room that they could hopefully afford. This is the most triggering experience I've had in years, and it feels like I'm living a waking nightmare. My dad's condition was way worse than I initially thought. He could barely put his seatbelt on, he didn't know what day it was or where he was, he couldn't follow my mom into the hotel without me yelling at her to keep an eye on him, and I walking over to guide him to the door. This person is supposed to be his caretaker, and yet she wasn't even keeping an eye on him. I walked into the hotel with them to have one final conversation with my mom, one more talk to try desperately to get them to see reason, to get my mom to understand the insane gravity of brining a man with dementia on a plane to a state that isn't safe for them without a plan, without anything booked. And of course my mom wouldn't even consider what I had to say. She completely dismissed it and went on about how she has no help, how she's a kind person and hasn't done anything to deserve her family, who live here in Kansas as well, not doing anything to support her. I left. I felt like the biggest piece of walking away from my mom as she started crying to herself. Despite her stubbornness and her insanely delusional thinking, she's in this situation because of the abuse of my father too. I walked out as my dad watched me with confused, slightly glassy eyes, and now all that sits in my head is this scene of two completely broken, nearly helpless adults who raised me. I haven't blocked them, but gods, I want to. I'm 25. I know I'm an adult, but I feel so small and so completely dumbfounded as to what I should do. AITA if I block my parents? I am so broke and work so much that I don't even think I'd have the time if I wanted to figure out what the to do with them, and they're supposed to be here for 9 days. I don't even know if they can afford a hotel for the rest of their visit. I think they were planning for our family to take them in, but they just want nothing to do with them. I'm just so tired. I don't even know how to process this. I need guidance, please. Edit. Alright. It has been a long 3 days. First, I'd like to make some clarifications. The main advice/insight I was given was to call APS, block my parents, and not let them into my house. I think that was wonderful advice, and I'm so thankful for everyone who guided me. That was not disregarded. That being said, when I read comment after comment telling me to block and forget, I realized that my situation was a little more nuanced than y'all would have had the context for. I didn't call APS. The reason I decided not to do this was that I thought it might make things worse. They do have an apartment to go back to, they do have doctors and social workers that work with them, and I believe are somewhat aware of their overall situation, and they both get Social Security, so I am pretty sure their housing is somewhat stable. Long story short, I'd rather they get home and then I take action in that way versus taking action here and making things worse. I understand that it's not my responsibility to begin with, but ultimately, I realized that I just wanted them to go back home. I haven't blocked them yet. That's still on the table, but I have left them unblocked just for the time being until they're home, which they should be in a few hours. More on that later. Though it was perfectly sensible to urge me not to let them in my house, for me, that was never a concern because I live in a tiny studio apartment, and my parents know this. I've lived in the same apartment for like 5 years, and a few years ago I let my mom inside. This was during a time when my dad still had his senses, and I still had a sliver of hope that I could convince my mom to leave him and work on our relationship. My parents knew that they couldn't stay with me simply because there's no room. Because of this, I also had very little worry that my mom brought my dad here to try to dump his responsibility onto me or a family member. All that out of the way, here's what happened. I dropped my parents off at a hotel on Wednesday night, and on Thursday, I didn't hear anything from them. To my relief, for the most part. On Friday, my mom texted me, while I was at work, mind you, asking if I could call my aunt or uncle for her. Initially, I declined, but she said she had left a bag on my aunt's porch overnight that had all their money, and it was missing. I ended up calling to figure out how the hell they got to my aunt's and why the they would have left a bag with their cash on the porch overnight, and where they went and all that. I mostly called so I could prevent my aunt from calling the police on them if they were just chilling on her porch, and to see if I could verify that they had a return ticket and urge my mom to change it to a sooner time. My mom verified they had a return ticket, and I asked her if she could change it. She said she would once she found her bag, and I told her to just focus on changing her ticket. I'd go find the bag. I asked her to promise me to do that, and she said, "Yes, I just want to get my bag and get the hell out of here. The damage is done. This was a huge mistake," while sobbing. For me, that was enough reassurance that she was going to do the right thing and leave. That's all I was hoping for, that they could just shorten the whole ordeal and get the f*** home. I asked for permission to leave work. I drove home to change my outfit, something less feminine because of they're also queer-phobic, and I went to my aunt's house to get my mom's bag. I suspected my aunt just took it inside, thinking it was for her because she's pretty sick, and my other aunts and uncles run errands for her and drop stuff off all the time. I was right. I grabbed my mom's bag, explained what was happening. My aunt had no idea my mom was even there, apparently, cried to her for a bit, and headed to Panera Bread, where my mom said my parents were. I got there, they weren't there, texted mom, and found them at the hotel next door. Why is there always a Panera next to a hotel somewhere? When I got to the hotel, my mom had gotten her flight changed for the very next day, Saturday. It was at this point that I didn't even have it in me to lash out anymore. I was so exhausted from the whole ordeal that I just sat on their bed and cried. When my mom answered the door, she answered it with the giddy excitement of someone who just doesn't understand the gravity of their impact on the people around them. Just happy to see her son. And of course, my dad was content, just like walking around the room and realizing I was there, repeating, "Hey son, you're so handsome. I bet the girls are chasing after you. You have a girlfriend yet?" Which was like some sick and twisted personal nightmare. Like, what a bizarre loop to have your abusive father completely disarmed by dementia, out of his wits, reminding you over and over that you are a completely different person than whatever they had in their heads to begin with. This whole ordeal played out just to see someone that they don't even know anymore, and arguably never knew to begin with. I stifled my tears just enough to verify the flight number, airline, and time of the return flight, and I left. As part of the bag-getting agreement, I told my mom that I'd take them back to the airport as long as they could get their tickets changed, and having done that, I fulfilled my promise this morning. I picked them up, and I dropped them off, and that was the end of it. I did end up asking why they came. Like, really asking. My mom said that my dad had been asking to see me non-stop every day for like months, and my dad's doctor suggested that coming to see me might help him get out of that like repeat mode. I think the truth is that my mom is 69 years old and just couldn't take it anymore. Now, for now, I'm just going to ignore any communications from them until I figure out what to do next. I sent an email to my dad's doctor trying my best not to take my anger out on her, and I have reached out to a friend who works in the medical field in California to help me come up with some options before we resort to APS, and to see how the filial laws that many commenters mentioned might apply to me. I want to make sure that, however I intervene next, is final. That's the only reason I'm not giving them a call and hoping for the best. I want to again say thank you to everyone who offered their advice. I still felt insane dealing with this for 3 days, and I know that the edit may not be as satisfactory as y'all may have hoped for, but seeing that I wasn't alone and getting so many kind words and revealing advice helped me feel so much less stressed. Y'all helped me stay somewhat grounded. Thank you. My parents weren't trying to stay with me. I didn't block them, I didn't call APS, but I did make sure that they changed their flight to leave ASAP, and I have guidance for what to do next once they're back in California. OP is not an AH. He showed immense compassion by picking up his abusive, unprepared parents from the airport and arranging a hotel for them, despite deep trauma. OP deserves peace and is not responsible for fixing the consequences of their actions. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 out of 5, and OP's parents 2.5 on the AH scale. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.